Today let's talk about how to add negative numbers. Right? Addition with negative numbers. Let's start with a very, very easy problem. 5 plus 3. Okay, so if you see 5 plus 3, hopefully you would immediately know the answer would be 8. Right? But did you know that beside the 5 and the 3, there are invisible plus signs? Because these are positive numbers. So your whole life, you've probably seen it like this, right? Just a positive number plus another positive number equals some answer. But for today, keep in mind that there are invisible plus signs because these numbers are positive. Okay, so positive 5 plus positive 3 equals a positive 8. But today we want to talk about how can we do addition when one or both numbers are negative numbers instead of positive. So instead of a 5 plus 3, let's start with making the 5 a negative. So 5 plus 3 is a completely different problem than negative 5 plus 3. So let's start with this, negative 5 plus 3. How can we do this? When you're adding with negative numbers, there are multiple ways that you can do it. There are multiple methods, okay? So I'm gonna show you a few methods and you are welcome to choose the method that you like best. If you understand one method or you think one method is the quickest for you to do, feel free to choose whichever method, okay? So one thing we can do is use a number line. So in your head or on a piece of paper, you can actually sketch out the numbers, okay? So 0 is here, negative 5 would be here, right? Negative 5, if you're adding a number, adding a positive 3, you would go to the right, like 3 times, right? So this is the first method, negative 5. If we move to the right 3 times, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2. We would end up at a negative 2. And that would be the answer, negative 2. So this is the first method. You write out a number line, you put your first number that you're starting with, that's your starting point, and then if you're adding a positive number, you move right however many spaces the second number is. So negative 5 plus 3 is indeed negative 2. But with this first method, the number line method, this only works if your two numbers are small. Okay? Because if you were adding like 50, you would not want to move 50 times. That'd be way too long, right? So keep in mind, the number line method, it only works for small numbers. Okay, but negative 5 plus 3 would be a negative 2. Okay, what if it is a 5 plus a negative 3? 5 plus a negative 3. Okay, once again on the number line. So 5 in this case, if it's 0, 5 would be here to the right this time because it's positive. If you are adding a negative 3, adding a negative number means subtracting. Okay, so 5 plus a negative 3, this is the same as 5 minus 3. Anytime you're adding a negative number, you're subtracting. So if we start at 5, we need to go to the left 3 times. Even though you're adding, it's a negative number, so we're subtracting. We got to go left. Okay, so 5 minus 3 obviously is 2, right? But on a number line, go to the left 3 times. 4, 3, 2. Your answer then, 5 plus a negative 3 would be 2. Okay, now what if we have a negative 5 plus a negative 3? Okay, so number line, 0, negative 5 is here. And I just said right before, right? If you're adding a negative number, you're subtracting. So we got to go to the left 3 places. So negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, negative 8. So this is the first method that you can use just to add negative numbers. But like I said, this is not very effective for any big numbers. Okay, if you're talking about single-digit numbers, it can work, but you certainly would not want to use this number line method for big numbers. Okay, so just a recap of what we've done so far. So we said like 5 plus 3 is 8. Because these are both positive, right? Plus, plus, positive, positive. We had negative 5 plus 3 equals a negative 2. We had a 5 plus a negative 3 equals positive 2. And then a negative 5 plus a negative 3 equals a negative 8. So instead of just using a number line, here's the second method that you can use. Let me rewrite it again in 2 different pairings here. Okay, so 5 plus 3 is 8. Negative 5 plus negative 3 is negative 8. And then negative 5 plus 3 is a negative 2. 5 plus a negative 3 is a positive 2. Now, some of you may have noticed when I wrote out these 4 equations in the line that their answers come in pairs, 8 and positive 8 and negative 8, and negative 2 and positive 2. So here's the second method. Okay? It's 2 rules that you can memorize. The first rule is, if you're adding and both numbers are the same sign, for example, positive, positive, or negative, negative, you simply add the numbers and make your answer the sign of the bigger number. So 5 plus 3, they're both positive. You simply add them and make the answer positive because the 5 is positive. Negative 5 plus a negative 3. 5 plus 3 is 8. And you make it negative because the 5 is negative. Okay, so let me do a different set of numbers with the same rule. So what about 1 plus 6? 1 plus 6 is 7. What about negative 1 plus negative 6? Negative 1 plus a negative 6, remember, plus a negative means minus. Negative 1 minus 6. That's going to be a negative 7. Okay? 1 plus 6 is 7, and you make it negative because the 6 is a negative. So if you're adding 2 numbers with the same sign, you simply add it and then you make the answer positive or negative, depending on whatever the bigger number is, the absolute value. Okay. The second rule, if you're adding two numbers with opposite signs, like a negative with a positive or a positive with a negative, then you subtract the two numbers and make your answer the sign of the bigger one. So negative 5 plus 3, 5 minus 3 is 2, and since the negative 5 is negative, you make it negative. 5 plus a negative 3 is positive 2 because here it's positive. All right, and we can do another set of numbers. How about negative 2 plus 9? Okay, well, you do 9 minus 2, which is 7, and since the absolute value of 9 is bigger than the absolute value of negative 2, we make it positive. 9 minus 2, positive 9, positive 7. What about 2 plus a negative 9? 9 minus 2 is 7, but since the 9 is negative, we make it negative 7. Okay, so the summary for this second method is this right here.